Here we are in the group for our Friday interview with our employee to entrepreneur story. And I'm here today joined by Nancy Jacobi, who is the owner of the Japanese paper place. And I'm really excited to have you hear her story. It's amazing. She's done some great things. She used to be a teacher and now she is a business owner. So let us welcome Nancy Jacobi.
Hi, Kim. How are you?
I am excellent. I'm so happy that you were able to join us. And I know that we had a few technical issues, but that's okay. That's okay. We seem to be doing fine now.
Good. I'm glad. Thank you for your help, Kim.
So Nancy, I hardly did you justice on that little intro because I would love for you to share your story of actually how you began with the Japanese paper place and how you got into Japanese paper. You're from Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about that.
Okay. When I had tried teaching English for 8 years in high school here, and done many, many other things, I decided that I would go to Japan to teach English. And I was then 33, and I didn't start the business till I was 38. So in those 5 years, from when I started teaching in Japan, I really started to learn about Japanese paper. And so when I came back, I started very slowly to kind of bring back a little bit of paper with me. I went to teach and look at the paper and then come back. And I ordered my first real order for it by typing the letter and sending it by mail. In those days, there weren't even fax machines. And so gradually I started to bring it in. But what I remember, Kim, and I think it's really worth your membership thinking about, I went to a seminar that the Y put on before I started the business. And the seminar was about how to start your own small business. And what the guy said was, think back to as far as you can remember in your life. What did you enjoy then? If you can think back before anybody said, oh, you'd be a great nurse or you'd be a great doctor or whatever, right. What did you love to do? And he said, that is what will make you a really happy entrepreneur. And he went around the room and asked everybody what they loved to do. And it was incredible, the connection between what they had as a business idea. So when I was a kid, what I loved paper. I loved having workshops in my house for dance and art. And I loved playing store. And I loved everything creative. I loved writing and books. And in the end, that's what drove me into this business, really, was my desire to encourage people's creativity. And still, that's what I think keeps the business really alive.
That's amazing. Oh, I'm so glad you shared that. That's, I think more of us need to think that way. What a great question he asked.
It really was a great question, and it's so clear. And I think that, what happens is it's not just what you love, it's what gives your life meaning partly. And I guess that's how you find what gives your life meaning, to think back to your real essence when you were just 5 or 6 or whatever. What did you love, Kim, when you were little?
Yes, I was always into drawing and art. I was very much on the creative side as well. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was the farthest away from numbers.
I think that was my story too. Yes.
Anything to do with math or anything like that. Just, I know it's supposed to be logical, but to me it wasn't.
Right. I'm with you on that for sure.
Yeah. So how did that thought turn into a business with paper? And
well, I guess I did it kind of gradually. I realized when I was teaching English in Japan for a year that I really was drawn to their paper. It was so beautiful. It was everywhere. Every package was wrapped in beautiful paper. And I wrote letters home to my parents on this extremely plain but beautiful handmade paper. And I just started to realize that I was falling in love with this stuff and that I thought we should have it in Canada. At that time, that was 1975 when I was there. And we didn't have any interesting paper here at all.
Right.
And I thought we should have that. That'll encourage creativity. And by then I could recognize that mission, which has remained really.
Wow.
So I just gradually started to, one of my students, I was teaching adults, and one of my students there had a connection with a paper company. So he introduced me to the company and took me there. And over several visits with this supplier, he agreed to supply me. And he later said, I was very surprised when you did well, because he said, you were a woman, A, and B, you were ordering these little amounts, like 5 sheets of this and 5 sheets of that. Now we order 1,000 or, 500. So that became a great friendship,
That is
friendship with the
incredible.
family. Yeah.
So, were other parts of the world getting this paper at the time? Like, were they shipping to places?
Mr. Moriki, that was the name of my supplier. They shipped to the States and they shipped to Europe, to one central place in each, big paper companies. So that the Japanese paper part of that business was relatively small. They were selling European papers and American papers. And so the world was my oyster, because they had very specific markets. Conservation, for instance, to conserving books and paper and things. But my interest was really in selling to artists. I thought people who had a creative bent would love this. And that's when I started to do the trade shows overseas.
Right.
And but that was a long haul. Before that, it was many years of running. Every time I opened a store on Queen Street first, and every time I sold a piece of paper, I would ride my bicycle up to the bank to deposit it. It was like that.
Wow, that's amazing. And now, tell me, like, you are one of the largest distributors, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. We are, because we have a terrific range, and we have many, many markets actually, besides artists and art supply stores. We have a large wholesale business. We sell to people who bind books, companies that bind books, and the Inuit at Cape Dorset, the printmakers up there, we sell to.
Wow.
And sometimes for wallpaper or
People
big,
use it for wallpaper?
yeah. There's a restaurant in London, England called Bob Ricard. It's very, very high end.
Oh.
And they have champagne buttons that you press when you're ready for more champagne. But though in that fabulous restaurant, they've used Japanese paper. Actually, it's the Chiogami, the pattern paper, in all the booths and the ceilings of the booths. And they're different Chiogamis, different pattern papers. It's fantastic. So that kind of thing, that was a huge order. But so it inspires that kind of creative use.
So I just want people to understand that you're in Canada, but you now distribute all over the world Japanese paper. So Japanese paper companies, like, they love you and trust you and supply you with the paper, but now you distribute it worldwide. People come to you, this is like fantastic, Nancy. This is huge. Like, from you driving your bike to, deposit your little checks or whatever, your money into the bank, to now distributing worldwide, and to even craziness like restaurants that are buying huge amounts of your Chiogami. So just so people understand, there's different types of paper. Some of the stuff that I find really fun is the Chiogami, because it has all the prints and it's in different colors. And people use that in they decorate boxes or they create art with it on its own. But there's also the handmade washi, which is beautiful for art.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Those are kind of maybe the two main groups. We have thousands of papers, but those are kind of the main groups.
Right, and it's amazing if you're ever fortunate enough to go and see the office and the warehouse. It's like the paper is just wonderful. So I know you have had some ups and downs in the business, and I want you to share some of those. And please tell us about the fire.
About the fire, yes. Well, that was certainly a challenge. After I had been in business, so I rented a little store for $300 a month on Queen Street initially in 1982. And there was no man's land. There was nothing on Queen Street but used appliances and hookers. It was really out of the...
It was up and coming.
Yeah. But it allowed a slow start, and that was fine. But after I had been there for 5 years, I was able to buy the building because it was still no man's land, and with the person next door, and we bought that shared building together, which was incredible, really, when I think about it now, because people didn't know what the paper was when I started. Anyway, we bought it together, and that was nice. Went along for a while, and then in what was it, in 2003, I think, after 11 years anyway, there. The building next door had been for sale. Somebody bought it, and he was an arsonist, and he lit fire, and he burnt out us and our neighbor, the ones we had bought the building with. It was a disaster. The building was totally ruined. I was in Montreal at the time. I got a call from one of the staff, and she said, "Nancy, the store is on fire and water is pouring out the front door." It was early in the morning, about 5 o'clock in the morning. So we rushed back, and sure enough, it was on fire. And so as a result...
This is paper we're talking about.
Yeah, it's paper. That's right. And of course, firemen love water, and water and paper are not really a very good mixture. So by the time I got back there, it was almost totally consumed. But the city said we had to demolish the thing completely and get rid of it. That was $17,000. So the bills just started. I was renting from Xerox at the time, a copier, and they made us pay a huge amount to cut the lease. And it was just one thing after another. We were absolutely far below zero by the time that fire was over. However, because we'd been around for 11 years and we had a lot of customers, at that time it was mostly individual artists and people. They were so helpful. They threw a huge party for us, and they raised enough money that we could start again. It was an astounding life experience, as those things often are. You think it's a crisis, which it is, but things work out, and they work out sometimes even better than they would have otherwise. So that was a challenge for sure.
That is amazing, though. Like,
yeah,
that could have, ended it all.
Oh yeah. And Kim, what that made me really aware of was how important it is for your audience, people thinking about becoming entrepreneurs, of choosing something to do that has real meaning to them and they love it. Because when I got that phone call in Montreal, I said, I didn't question for a minute that I would start all over again after 11 years. And I did. And really? I never looked back. I never thought, oh, poor me, what about this? I just had this vision. I have to keep encouraging creativity. And by now, I have to keep supporting those paper makers. They've believed in me and the suppliers family. And so I had to keep going.
Wow.
And I'm so glad I did, because the business grew a lot after that.
Yes. So where did it go after that?
So after that, so I had also by that time, when I think about it, in 11 years, I was pretty lucky. The times were good for starting a business, I guess, then. And because I had to do it carefully, little by little, I didn't make any gross mistakes. But
Can I just interject here? It's not like you had any real business background. Did you?
no, no, I didn't. And I did not. And I wished I had. Really, I mean, still, I wish that. And I would say to any of your audience, get whatever real business instruction you can, because you don't have time to do it sort of later somehow.
Right.
But anyway, I had bought, I mean, this was lucky. I had been asked to be part of a building that was being remade into condominiums for artists, working places. And they needed one more person in this 12-person unit, resizing an old factory. And so I took that just a couple of years before this fire. And so at the time of the fire, I had that space, which was just a short distance away. And so we could salvage some of the paper from the basement. And our customers, our wonderful customers, helped us do that. And then they also took the paper to their houses and dried it, whatever could be dried from the basement, sheet by sheet on their furniture.
They took it to their own homes?
Yeah, they took it there, and it had to be dried separately or it would just stick and it would be useless. So some of these papers were worth, even then, $10 a sheet.
Yeah.
So to do that was a fantastic thing. So anyway, we had our suppliers came over, brought stock for us. We sold a lot of things that artists made at that time. So the artists would donate their cards or whatever they were making, boxes and books.
Right.
And we just started again. We had a fire sale that people still remember and are still using.
A real fire sale.
Yes, it was exactly a real fire sale. And so, but that, once you get off, we were on the main street, even though it was no man's land. And once you get off that main drag, it's not easy to do retail in those days anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so easy anyway these days.
Yeah, right.
But so I had to find a place first. I realized that quite quickly, that after the fire sale big thing was over, then we didn't have people coming in. So I knew that I had to find another place really quickly, but I didn't have any money, of course. So I found this miraculous place just walking by, and there it was, the perfect store to rebuild. It was light and it was bigger, and we just went to work fast and built it up again. And now that store, called the Paper Place on Queen Street, is doing a terrific business. And I eventually sold the business to Heather Sauer, who still runs it.
Is she still running it? That's amazing.
Yeah, she still owns it. Yeah, she and her husband, they've done a terrific job.
Yeah. And so what happened to you after you sold that? Because,
Yeah, so then I realized at that time, they really are two distinct businesses. The wholesale and the retail. The retail business is really for artists, and the wholesale business is for other businesses, museum shops and art supply stores and kids stores. And so my heart was in the good papers. I wanted to get those good, what we call washi out there, the handmade papers, which were slowly dying. And so we could do that more easily outside the city. So we rented a warehouse in Etobicoke, West Toronto, and we moved what we had there. And by that time, that was 4 years ago. So we had a lot of stock. Right. And so there we have a lot of space to do workshops. We have events. We can do little exhibitions and support the business while we're selling to the stores around the world.
That is incredible. So I'm trying to sort of piece together how you started to get this global market, because you didn't have the technology of the internet.
For sure.
And, how did you find even the trade shows or venues to find your clients?
I think I think I started locally, going to the trade show in Toronto, the gift show, which still is going.
Mhm.
And so we did that show quite early on. It was a small show at the exhibition grounds, the CNE.
Mhm.
And, you know, when you do one trade show, you make a lot of fantastic connections
Oh,
if you try. And
yeah.
so we would find out there what other trade shows people were doing in the rest of the world. And we also had you know, grew our business in Canada that way.
Right.
And so then through that, and through other customers too. I remember a customer in Vancouver told she would go and buy in Europe. And so she was very helpful in getting us a contact to enter a show in Frankfurt. It's a terrific, it's called Creative World. Used to be Paper World, but they kind of merged paper and other creative materials. It's a big show every January. And we've done that show for 17 years.
Wow.
And that's really how that international business grew. Yeah, that's been
I
exciting.
finding that right venue or that right show.
Yeah.
So you,
Yeah, you have to ask a lot of questions. Entrepreneurs should always be asking and have more questions than answers, you
yeah.
know, at that stage.
So yeah, that would be my next question is, um, you know, what would you say was your biggest struggle that if you could change it now, by knowing what you know, what would you do differently?
Well, you touched on it earlier. I would learn more about running a business officially. I would take more courses, and now it's wonderful to have webinars and so forth, but really to pay attention to that. For sure, I would do that. And what else would I do? Um,
I have to say, even without your business experience, you've done amazingly well. Yeah.
well, by the seat of my pants, I guess. You know, part of so much this kind of commodity selling has to do with how much you really like to talk to people.
Right.
And I as you know, I like to talk to people.
Yeah, you like
And
people. You're a people person.
yes, much like yourself. And so yeah, I guess it's just partly, and because I felt passion for this commodity, that also, you know, that's a very contagious thing. And if you really feel strongly about what you're doing, it
Mhm.
comes out, it comes across. And I think that really helps you sell things. And then other people who are better at computers and numbers, as you say, can do that part of it. But
Well,
it was hard. It's always been hard. And for me too, the whole technology thing has been continues to be an albatross. But
but you don't have to do it all, right?
yeah, oh, for sure. I have some wonderful helpers. But
Yeah.
it's still important to know as much as you can about that stuff. I know in the beginning when the shipments came in from Japan, I
Mhm.
would go out to the big transport terminal where it came in. At the time I had a little Volkswagen, and I would back it up to the dock between all these big transports because I wanted to know how all that worked. I wanted to do my own customs brokerage so that I would know. So to that extent, you know, I was self-serving.
Right.
Um,
Well, I think that's really an interesting point that you make. Um, you know, I hear always people give advice about, you know, don't do what you're not good at, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't know about it.
yes, exactly.
You know, I always like, you know, there's a lot of tech things that I like my clients to use or to get involved with, which means even if I don't do it for myself, I hire people eventually.
Hmm.
Um, I need to know, I like to know how it works.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's really good advice, really.
Yeah.
Um,
And and even though I really don't enjoy financials, I like to understand what's going on.
mhm. And yeah, and you really need to. Even now, you know, when I look at the statements. We have a bookkeeper and an accountant that we
Mhm.
use. So I don't have to do that, fortunately, but I still don't understand it quite as much as I wish I did.
Yeah.
And it gets harder to learn those things as you get older. You have to do it while you're young, a lot of that.
So we have a question. Holly says, that's awesome. What did you do that built such relationships with your customers that they would help you so? So how did you build that community?
I would say I I really started from a point of truly wanting to help every single customer. If it was an artist, I wanted them to use the best paper that they could possibly afford, because work on it is always better. It's more sellable. We
Right.
learned that early on. And if they were stores, I want those stores to be successful. I want them to be successful with this paper. And I think starting from a true belief that you want to help your customers, not just have them buy more to make more money. That's not it. It's wanting to help them uh, through buying your product.
And that, you know, that
Or
is so
service.
great to hear that you were doing that even before. A lot of people are, uh, that I follow that and listen to and are mentors these days for me, you know, that's one of the big things that I find I have learned is give, 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 and then it's amazing what comes back to you. And you were doing that, just it's natural to you. It was
Mhm.
natural because you are such a people person to begin with, that and I know that I've seen you help so many people, so many artists, but to go out there and help them before you even ask anything in return is, I can see how that really built a strong community for you.
Yeah, that's it. It's about generosity, and I'm a great believer in generosity. I
Hmm.
think it's a very, very important quality to have. Maybe more important as an entrepreneur than as an individual, even. Although I believe in that too. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So if you were going to give people that are starting out or are struggling to grow a piece of advice, what would you tell
I would say just what you said, which is give, give, give. And
them?
at times, I just remembered that at many times during the business when I was feeling a real financial crunch,
Mhm.
I would just think, I need to give something to somebody. And I would write a check for a donation to something that I believed in. I've done that many times. Um, it was just a reminder that, you don't get without giving, and that stance is really important. So that would be one thing.
Yeah.
And just to make sure you're doing the thing that you love, that has meaning for you. If you're doing something and you're not feeling meaning, somehow to try and make it useful. Do it as a service to some community that isn't really your customer base.
That is that is awesome information and a great tip, because there are ups and downs with entrepreneurs.
Hmm.
And yeah, for you to go out and think of it in such a way that, you know what, I've got to give something when you're like going, oh my goodness, I have nothing right now.
Yeah.
And it turned it around for you.
Yeah, it would. I mean, miraculously, it really did. Well, it made you stop fretting so much about
Yeah.
what you had. I mean, partly I always felt I was earning money so that I could support the things I wanted to support. You know,
Wow.
that's an important thing too, to realize why you're working at all. And for me, it was partly to support art, the art world.
And I can really feel the passion from you. Like you love what you do.
Hmm.
I think that's a huge key to your success.
Yeah, I do, Kim. And but I don't love every single detail about it.
No.
For sure. I love it, and I have to often keep my eye on the vision,
Right.
because the day to day can sometimes be very, very hard, very,
Right.
and you're always going to have some issues.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, staffing small business is not an easy matter.
Right.
You don't have the huge salaries that big corporations can offer, and often you're competing with them for the skills that you need.
That's true. That's true.
But you have a lot more to offer as a small business. You know, there's a lot more flexibility in what you can offer.
Right. Yeah.
In terms of time or.
So, and you have, been doing this for 40 years?
Yes.
That's amazing. Like, that is such a success story. And, it should inspire a lot of people.
I hope so.
I hope so. To continue on. But I love that, when times are tough, give something to somebody, help somebody out.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love that piece of advice. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with these entrepreneurs?
Just to savor the really wonderful parts of business and savor your customers. Mm-hmm. I think my whole base of friends changed after I started the business, because you have so much in common with the people you are serving as an entrepreneur, and to really appreciate that, to be generous and to appreciate what you have in terms of the business and what you can give to others.
Right.
Those would be my 2 words of parting.
I love that. I love too, because it goes so well with Seth Godin. I don't know if you've heard, of course you probably have, a great marketer. He talks about brand being, a set of experiences and memories that you make for somebody. And oh my gosh, that's exactly what you've done. You've built this amazing brand by helping other people and creating experiences for them. You've done.
Yeah, that's it. That's a good way to put it, Kim. Thank you.
Yeah. It just clicked right now, because I thought you do exactly what he said. And that's why you've been successful. But you do it with pleasure. It's you and with enjoyment. Yes, for sure. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I see Holly says rounds of applause. So I think that everybody will appreciate hearing this, and those that haven't watched it right now, there's still the replay. So thank you, Nancy, so much. Thank you, Kim. It's been a pleasure, and I would love to meet some of your entrepreneurs one day. Yes. Well, that's a techie thing. You have to jump into the group. But I joined it. Did you? Okay, fantastic. Yeah. So it's a community where everybody can chat amongst each other too. So. Good. Well, I'd be welcome to any questions. Great. Thanks, well, thanks so much. Have a great rest of your day. You too. Bye for now. Bye. Bye, everybody.